Hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of our new series, Pushing PLAT, the series where I take games from my trophy list at 65% or higher and get the platform. Now we've got a solid lineup for today's episode, but first let me get some general things out of the way. First, I'm jumping into games that I've already started/beaten, meaning there will most likely be spoilers, so you've been warned. Second, although I'm going for platinums, this doesn't mean 100% completion, as some games have extra content not related to trophies or even DLC that I might not own or have no interest in playing beyond the base game. And third, I'm not a professional. I might jump around a lot in some of these videos and I may use guides or online forums to assist in finding certain things, but I will always give it my best try before I resort to outside help. With all that out of the way, let's get some platinum trophies. Now on to our first game, and that game is... That's right, baby, Bloodborne, the game that people can't seem to keep out of their mouth. And reasonably so, being the first 8th gen FromSoft title that wasn't a remaster, but a brand new game featuring a whole new world full of werewolves, witches, and gothic Victorian abominations. This game has been a huge subject of debate, rumor, and controversy. This game has remained a PlayStation exclusive, although FromSoft fans continue to beg Sony for a port or even a remaster, as the version that's available is still technically the PS4 version, meaning there's no 4K and the game is still locked at 30 FPS. And worse enough, it still has drops. Even recently, as the game has celebrated its 10th anniversary, fans were met with disappointment as the announcement was just for a hardcover strategy guide. And Sony continues to parade this series around, constantly reminding us that they own it, but there's just nothing else that they do with it. Which Last of Us remake are we on now? Further salt in the wound came from both the end of the Sony trailer and the skin for Astrobot that's only available in the deluxe edition, which I may or may not have bought. Worst part is, you have to get almost halfway through the game to access it, and that's if you're collecting everything. Anyway, although Bloodborne isn't my first FromSoft title, it is the first one I've beaten, shout out to my buddy Justin, and afterwards, it all made sense. I get it. For years, I couldn't understand why people would subject themselves to torture like this. But after beating the game and feeling that sense of accomplishment, I get it. And to me, this was my gateway drug. I finally went back to some that I started before and wound up beating Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1 and 3 plus their DLC. And currently, I'm making my way through the other 3 games. But since I was already so close to the plat on this one, I figured why not? How bad could it be? Famous last words. Now we are currently sitting at an 81% completion rate overall, and I think 91% for just the game if you don't count the DLC, and I only need 2 trophies. One is Yharnam Sunrise, and then there's the plat, which sounds really boring, especially since the Sunrise trophy is just a different ending and one that doesn't even require fighting the final boss. So, I figured since I enjoyed the base game so much to beat it twice already for the other 2 endings, why not get all the trophies for the DLC and get 100% completion for this game as well? Might as well make those famous last words legendary last words. Now for the DLC, we have 3 trophies. Old Hunter's Essence, which is acquiring all Hunter's weapons, and 2 boss trophies, one for Orphan of Kos, or as some say Cosm, that joke will make sense later, and then Lawrence, the first Vicar. I apologize for the hard R there. So let's get ourselves a plat. We start in the Nightmare of Mensis and make our way towards our first boss, Mikuláš. I can't quite remember why I stopped playing last time, but I'm sure it won't take me very long to figure it out. I take the elevator and head past some potheads. Kinda look like me making my way to the fridge for my nightly fistful of shredded cheese. And I can't tell you why, but it just tastes better at 3 AM. Anyway, it doesn't take long for the ketamine to wear off the stoners, and before I know it, I'm scrambling to stay alive. I'd also like to point out that at this point, I'm on my 3rd playthrough, and it feels very reminiscent of the first, with less reward for defeating enemies and bosses, obviously. And to say I've been struggling through the 3rd playthrough would be a bit of an understatement. I do catch sight of the creature who absorbed my blood echoes, and I make a tactical retreat. I progress a bit more, unlock a shortcut, and make my way to the boss, Mikuláš, host of nightmares.
Ah, Kos. Or some say Cosm.
He said it! He said it!
We shall not abandon the dream. No one can catch us. No one can stop us now.
We are laughing.
And I can tell you right now, this is one of my favorite bosses in the game. Actually, scratch that, reverse it. Me and my homies hate Mikuláš. He's not very difficult, but his battle is annoying, and as far as I can tell, aside from a few attacks from some other stronger bosses, he's the only one with a one-hit kill attack. Now outside of that, his battle just consists of chasing him through this set of hallways and trying to get him into a room where you can fight him, all while dodging random skeletons and occasionally having to listen to him howl at you, even though definitely sounds like more of a moan. My tactic is to do a quick shot or swing if I can time it right to do damage on him on the stairs and just kind of like chip damage him down until I can get him trapped in a room. After a bit, I manage to get him into the room and we spar a bit. There's a bit of back and forth and he hits me with some hentai, but I keep coming. Eventually I get him to half health and he runs again, run past a few more enemies, and I find myself in another maze. I get him looped into a room and I decide to try shooting him, but when I realize he's continually running through, I switch to poison knives to try and see if I can poison him and, I don't know, maybe like cheap him out or make the battle slightly easier, but unfortunately he catches on and it's right back to the old cat and mouse. He goes back into the loop, so I keep chucking poison knives. I run out, switch it up, and this time it triggers the damage check and the gate, so I have to actually make my way back into the room and fight him. As soon as I get in there, however, he immediately tries to one-hit me. I dodge a few times, but after a well-placed hit and a poorly timed dodge, he gets me. Yeah, I'm starting to think this might not have been such a good idea. Round 2, and I get him to his second phase with no issues, but he gives me the runaround for a while before I finally get him into the room. This time, I do not hesitate. I don't let up on the assault, and before long, Mikolash is no more. I make my way back to the Hunter's Dream to level up, which doesn't do much for me considering how high my level is, but whatever. Onward and forward. I only have one boss left to access the Platinum Trophy, so I continue to make my way up the tower. I come across some ring wraiths, leave them in the dust. I kill the lady with the annoying bell and proceed further up the tower. I pass a lady having a worse day than me, head down the new shortcut, and get another level in before I beeline it for the next boss. Murgo's Wet Nurse. Yeah, don't ask. Aww, a baby. Aww, man-made horrors beyond my comprehension. This boss battle isn't too difficult as long as you dodge effectively, but it does get dicey after she activates her teleportation move, which unfortunately turns me into that special fruit from Fruit Ninja, and it's right back to the drawing board for me. Yeah, the baby crying is definitely the mood. I'm actually upset because while I did struggle with her on my first playthrough, I got her first try on my second, but either way, I still managed to get the upper hand in battle and I get her on my second try. I hop back to the Hunter's Dream. This is fine. And although I could technically get the plat now, we've still got ones to do for the DLC, and since I can't get those with a new save, this is the best time to possibly go for it. So back to the Cathedral Ward for me. Earlier on, and in an unrecorded session, I picked up a specific item that I don't remember what the item was, but whatever it is exactly what we needed in order to access the DLC. Swing around, I let myself be taken, the demon whispers something about cursing at children or something, and now we're in the Hunter's Nightmare. And of course, I do what any sane Soulsborne player would do. Almost lost my cool there. Onward. Now, if there's anything that any of these Souls games have taught me, it's that DLCs are always harder in some way, shape, or form, and this game, unfortunately, isn't any different. This time, I'm mostly fighting hunters, and let me tell you right now, they all suck. Each one is like its own boss battle, but to be fair, I'm used to fighting normal enemies with standard predictable attacks, so I just have to do what all the pro Souls players do, and just get good. I progress through the area for a bit, pick up a few pieces of clothing and one of the hunter's weapons, and head towards the church. I let a great ball of fire clear the way, watch some enemies fight each other, and then I realize, oh, he's looking at me. I put him down and make my way into the church.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on.
I soak in the beauty for a bit, push forward, dodge a few turrets, and descend further into hell. I come across a group of hunters and get caught on a grave before I can't get out. Well, time for some good old-fashioned revenge. I kill the turret watcher who just so happens to have my echoes, and now it's my turn. Yeah, that felt good. Anyway, afterwards, I clear out a hospice, pick up another weapon, aka the Boon Hammer. I find myself fighting some sort of shag carpet monster with some cool gloves, make my way through a blood creek filled with poison-spewing demonic ticks. I ascend some stairs and find myself facing off against some trigger-happy hunters, talk to a random guy about secrets, and unlock a shortcut. Time for a quick level up and back into the action. I make a bit more progress, outrun some giant with a cannon, and activate the next lamp. Then it's on to our first boss of the DLC, Ludwig the Accursed.
Help us.
This is your BMB TV show. Today I'll be jumping onto cheese graters, printer, and this motherfucking microwave. This is for the juggalos and juggalettes. Do not try this at home, and I hope you like it.
right off the bat, I'm already straight up not having a good time. I put up a solid fight, but unfortunately his unpredictability does me in, and if you couldn't tell by this, I had it for the night. I came back a few days later and beat him, but unfortunately I forgot to record, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tally 4 deaths just for good measure. I push forward after speaking with some secrets dude and find myself in a prison, and I'll be honest, this place could stand to see some drop soap. Alright, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go ahead and tally another death for the stupid obligatory drop soap joke. Okay, and yep, there it is. I run into one of the dudes from Eyes Wide Shut and some grandpa with the one time, and I start to slip up a bit. I make it out alright and wind up finding another one of the weapons I require, aka the Fist of Gratia. We used to pray for hunters' weapons like these. I dispose of some New York-sized rats and run into actual hunters. I'll be honest, the first one chased me a bit, but I'm a man. Oh shit, not like this. I push back and get this lady close, but she gets me with a slight clip of her whip, and I'm down another mark. I head back up to 1v1 this lady, and after a bit of back and forth, I relinquish her of her echoes and perform some brain surgery before heading up into the research facility. I hate this place. It really is just the worst. The layout sucks, the enemies suck, and there are traps and random shelves, but whatever. I proceed, however, dealing with weird patients with tumors, I believe? I put some patients out of their misery, keep on trucking. Kill a few here, a few there, before getting wombo combo to all hell. Did I ever say how much I love this game? No? Huh, that's weird. This time I take a different path, teach a man how to fly, almost get fumigated by an old man in a wheelchair, and then unlock a shortcut to make life a bit easier. Some lady gives me a quest to find her some brain fluid, and I head back to trekking through this hellhole. I ask a man to settle down before he enters my house. Thank you. Then I kill this guy before realizing he may not have been an enemy. He might have just been a friendly guy, but you can't take chances in places like this. Hopefully he wasn't necessary for any story quests. Please, please don't let him be necessary for any story quests. And I don't know about this lady either, but if I was her, I know I'd want to die. Reeks of woman. Interesting. I proceed a bit further before inevitably getting stuck in yet another combo in a corner. Third time's a charm, I guess. Okay, guess not. Okay, one more time with feeling. I clear most of the room before heading forward, albeit licking my wounds a bit, but doing okay. Up some more winding stairs of doom and onto another shortcut. I don't stay for long before heading back up though, and now I have to deal with the things but headless, and another old man with a Gatling gun. I really hope this game loves me as much as I love it. I kill some tumors that apparently cause my least favorite status effect in the game, Frenzy, and keep on climbing. Now we're in the rafters, and these games love to fuck you over at this height. See? Never let your guard down. I push a lever to rotate the staircase and meet this dude, and honestly, couldn't relate harder at this point. I start making my way towards the boss door and engage another hunter who makes short work of me and my patience. I give over the brain fluid, she talks about sticky sounds or something. Anyway, I decide to rematch with the hunters in order, and I promptly make my way back to him, and decide, I'm way stronger, and I'll have mercy this time. Anyway, I finally reach the door, and it's time for another boss, or should I say bosses. This time it's against living failures. Wish I knew what that was like. And completely unrelated, but just to remind y'all, please subscribe, by the way. Anyway, this battle is annoying as there's multiple headless creatures roaming the area. Some shoot magic while others do close range attacks. The hardest part is keeping a good handle on where they're at all times. That and their ultimate comet summon attack. Worst part is, I wind up killing them all, and I attempt to kill the last one with no vials, and this happens. At least I don't have to fight them again, but that really sucks. I decide to make the executive decision to try and cut hairs and get there using my ultra secret shortcut. Unfortunately for me, I didn't realize it was a shortcut to a rage quit. We boot up again and it's back to birthing the blood. I run straight for the boss room, activate the lamp, and gird my loins for the next boss battle, Lady Maria.
Oh, I know very well how the secrets beckon so sweetly. Only an honest death will kill you now. Prevent you from your wild curiosity.
Humana. There's something about a woman who can whoop my ass, am I right, y'all? Takes some time, but I start to get into the groove with her. She stabs herself, goes into her final form, and the music gets epic. It goes on for a bit, but she winds up doing me in. Round 2. This time around the battle is much smoother and I test my cape physics. I open the clock door to proceed into the next area, Fishing Hamlet. I'd also like it to be known that from this point, it's a complete mystery to me, as I managed to get this far in my second playthrough, but forgot to finish the DLC before finishing the game a second time, thus resetting my progress. So, just a heads up, I die. Like, a lot. I pass a man talking to himself, which really sets the mood for the place before fighting aquatic yarmans. They throw a whole lot at me, including weird flying purple soul skulls and giant fish creatures that have a taste for mediocre players. My game winds up getting glitched and my character can't get off this wall for some reason. I decide to reset and thankfully, problem fixed. I challenge Big Boy to a rematch and that goes about as well as you could guess. My weapon is badly damaged, so I head back to the hunter stream to fix it before continuing on my journey, which just leads me right back to the big fish boy and accidentally finding myself in a well with, you guessed it, another one, and this one has a hook. Yeah, that was super effective. This time I try a different path to do some exploring, which just turns into a speed run to my grave. I barely make it to the next lamp, and I barely have time to take in my surroundings on account of the fish dudes who want to murder me. I keep moving through, taking out a hunter on the way and heading into a cave system. I unlock a shortcut, dive deeper, and... ew. You know, this game really does gross me out sometimes. At this point, I'm really not sure what to expect, but in a weird Stockholm Syndrome kind of way, I'm kind of enjoying getting lost. I continue exploring, primarily sticking to the rooftops until I... ooh, a shiny thing. Oh god, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. I managed to get away, and then with my luck, here comes another hunter to show me how the last encounter should have ended. I hop off for the night and hop back in later. I decide to pause progress on, like, moving forward in the story and try to get some of the weapons progress. And as you can see, that goes about as well as everything else in this playthrough. Next time I skip through and I just grab the Whirlgig Spear and Beast Hunter safe. I then head back to the Blood Creek to find a cave with a Gatling gun toting hunter, or his gun. He gets to a point where I could fart on him and win, but he manages to stun me just enough to get me. At this point, my morale is at an all-time low, and I'm really starting to feel it, Mr. Krabs. Round 2, and he almost does it again, but I manage to finish him and claim my Gatling gun and amygdala arm from further in the cave. I teleport back to the prison, fight a new hunter who appears, a couple of quick sweeps, and I can now access the door at the bottom of the stairs. Guy challenged me without realizing how out for blood I really am. Plus, he gives me a weapon I need for the trophy, so sorry, he's gotta go. I head back to the 1v1 room, grab Lawrence's skull from the pedestal, and take the elevator down to a secret room, which holds another hunter weapon, the church cannon, and it's back to my favorite location, the research hall. I do a roll-off segment of the second floor, claim my lock shield, and make a hasty retreat to the hunter stream. My one downside with the lamp is how you can't access the rest of the map from it. You have to go back to the hub. I get it since Demon Souls had a hub and Dark Souls 1s take quite a bit of time to get the ability to fast travel, but even 2 lets you move about the map freely, and it still came out before this, but whatever. I head back to the prison, kill a new invader, and claim the church pick, and kill this guy. Not for a weapon, but for his drip. Back to the fishing hamlet for one of the weapons that still gives me nightmares to this day. Rakuyo. Whatever, I don't know, however you pronounce it. And unfortunately, the only way to obtain it is to kill this big fish guy at the bottom of the well. I head down to take him out, I bet on a fart, and I lose. Okay, here we go again. This time I find out he can be countered, and not long after that I find out there's a second one that shows up when the first one's health goes down far enough. I don't last much longer after that. And this happens again, and again, and again, and again, until I finally get them both, and although this weapon will remain unused, I can at least say I earned it. The one up top is cake, and now I can finally explore the area, until I catch fire, of course. I do some item cleanup in the area, and I still can't seem to stop getting killed by these guys. Back to the lighthouse hut and forward, which unfortunately involves dealing with all the people down there. After fighting for a bit, I get through them, keep exploring. This guy has a new trick up his sleeve, but thankfully it's not enough to add to the tally list. At this point, I'm not sure where to go, but the path at the edge here looks promising. I don't even know anymore, man. It's back to Fish Floor Cave to see if maybe I missed something the first time. Nope. That seems about right. I wind up heading through a cave I assumed was a bottomless abyss. I unfortunately run into my least favorite enemy, activate the shortcut, but I don't open the door before entering the boss area. And if you thought I was dying a lot before, oh boy, here we go.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way, yeah.
Orphan of Kos, or some say Kosim, an absolute powerhouse. Quick as hell with a wide range of attacks. It's easily the hardest boss in the game, and it shows. I managed to hold my own for a good bit before running out of items and eventually becoming overwhelmed. Next, I beeline it for the elevator to open the door to the lamp and save myself some time, and it's right back to the Orphan. The next time I managed to get him to his second form, but he doesn't let me see that for long, and this goes on for a while. I managed to die once outside of the boss battle exploring a bit. Honestly, I died so many times I began to wonder if I actually could do this alone. So I rang my beckoning bell, but unfortunately no one answered. At one point, it really started to feel like the Dormammu scene from Doctor Strange. I messaged my friend to let him know how I was feeling, and I wish I could say I did this in one sitting, but even my patience has its limits. I spread this out over the span of 3 different recording sessions. But after over an hour of attempts, I was finally able to lock in and defeat him with no ammo and 2 vials left, earning me the Orphan of Kos trophy and granting me the final Hunter weapon, aka Kos Parasite, which nets me the Old Hunter's Essence trophy. Now back to the Hunter's Dream one last time to level up and on to the final boss of the DLC, Lawrence. I run straight for the room and summon Confederate Voltaire of the League. Listen, I know he may be a bit racist, but he'll make for the perfect distraction, and honestly, after that last battle, I'd like something that's a bit more chill.
Huh?
Now Lawrence isn't exactly as hard nor as quick, but he does do way more damage per hit, and his attacks deal additional fire damage. And once he's hit a second phase, he leaves fire and lava trails and has a bigger area of effect without his legs somehow. On my first attempt, Voltaire and I managed to get him to his second phase, but once Voltaire dies, I'm not too far behind, and thus begins the next vicious cycle of torture. Thankfully, I learned his final pattern and finally finish off Lawrence, netting me the final trophy of the Old Hunters DLC. Lawrence, the first vicar, and Voltaire, as culturally insensitive and racist as he was, died for a noble cause and most likely will be forgotten. I light the lamp and head back to the Hunter's Dream for my victory lap, straight through the garden up to Gerber, whatever his name is, to accept his offer, waking up and earning me the Yharnam Sunrise trophy, which snowballs into the PLAT, Bloodborne. So, should you platinum it? I'll be honest, maybe it's because I haven't watched the footage since I first did it, or maybe I omitted the suffering from my brain, you know, sort of like a trauma block. I initially was gonna say yes, but after this, I'm not so sure. While I enjoyed Bloodborne and truly felt a sense of accomplishment from beating the game, I never even spoke on some of the other trophies associated with the PLAT that I earned before recording this, including one that essentially has you creating randomly seeded dungeons to collect materials to make more dungeons so you can get more materials to make the final dungeon, or at least the one with the Blood Queen. You know, that lady that was having a bad time earlier? Anyway, that in and of itself is a major undertaking, and I'm sure the count speaks for itself, but I managed to die 55 times over the course of the DLC and the tail end of the game, not to mention the dungeons, the base game itself, or anything that I've done before this playthrough. And out of all the ones that I played, I'd still say this is the easiest. However, if like me, you have someone to guide you, or even a friend to play through the game with you who might not know much, it could be a very rewarding platinum. Just know, multiplayer in these games is weird and doesn't always reward the visitor. Any progress doesn't carry over, so if you're playing with someone else, you'll have to do everything twice. And I'd wish any person luck in attempting to platinum this game without a guide for the materials, weapons, and endings, because, just like all the other Souls games, this game can be very cryptic, and playing straight through the game will only net you some of the bosses, as some are optional. Still though, since 2 trophies are linked to replaying the game anyway, I recommend your first time be a blind playthrough, as blind as you can, considering you watched the tail end of it. And here's hoping you have an easier time of it than I did. I would say that's enough suffering for now, but we're not quite done yet. Our next game on the list is Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful. Now, I've been a Dragon Quest fan, or Dragon Worry if you've got mild to severe back pain, for a little over 10 years now, and man, has it been a roller coaster. On one hand, I love the series. So many great installments and spin-offs spread out across multiple consoles, from the NES to the arcades, from Game Boy Color to the PS4, from Wii to the PC, from the DS/3DS to mobile phones. It's almost impossible to name a console that hasn't seen at least one entry in the legendary series, and no matter what, you can expect the series to deliver an amazing and sometimes outlandish story full of amazing music composed by Koichi Sugiyama and featuring amazing and familiar visuals from the legendary late Akira Toriyama, known best for his work on Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, Chrono Trigger, Blue Dragon, Sandland, and so much more. However, the downside of the series is that some games, including the most recent releases, are generally exclusive to consoles like the Switch, which, hey, I own and I don't have any issues with it, but it's not my preferred console of choice. And while they will generally come to PC, I'd rather play Dragon Quest on a couch. On top of this, many games are rare, like 4, 5, and 6 of the Zenithine saga for the Nintendo DS, especially CIB, mainly due to the series not being as popular here in the States as it is in Japan, and of course, companies like GameStop just kind of like chucking the cases to save space. I suppose I could always take out a loan, I guess. And yes, I know I could just play them on the App Store, but having to play it in portrait mode and having no controller support is a real turnoff for me. And then you have some entries like 9 having only released on the DS, and of course the MMO Dragon Quest X never being officially released in America at all. It kinda leaves me feeling a bit sad that collecting these games becomes such a chore/money sink. However, recently, a silver lining has appeared with the announcement of Dragon Quest III 2D HD, featuring quality of life changes and updated visuals of one of the most popular and groundbreaking entries in the series. The announcement not only inspired me to make this fan art, but to also start 11, as it was the only one that I actually had easy access to without sailing the high seas or plugging up the old PS2. There was, of course, a long period of time while we waited on news, and in that time I managed to get about halfway through the base game, and then I fell off, like, hard. And then out of nowhere, we received another update on the 3 remake, and this time we didn't just get a release date, but new updated visuals, more quality of life changes, and even an announcement for 1 and 2 remake bundled together. This gave me the extra push I needed to finish through with 11 and inspired me to go for the PLAT, and I figured I'd share that journey with y'all. And with this news, who knows, maybe we might be seeing more remakes or possibly more in the near future. Now for this game, we have 8 remaining trophies for the game, currently sitting me at 77% completion. 2 are story-related quests that involve finishing the epilogue, and then there's this one, which I'm just going to use like a Google Translate thing for.
Chef de classe de médailles.
Yeah, there you go. That one's awarded for completing the 3rd page of my mini metal album book. You're welcome. When from here on out, we'll just call it the metal trophy. How's that sound? Good? Good. Swordsmith of Light, which is awarded for crafting the finest of all weapons on the Fun Size Forge, which is essentially just the Super Sword of Light. Magic Moments, which I get from spending time with a special someone. Savior of the Tockles Scriptures, which is saving all of the Tockles worlds, and I'll explain what a Tockle is later. And then there's the Nightmare, that is the dedicated follower of fashion. And of course, then it leads into our number 8, which is the PLAT. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started. We start in Hodo, however you pronounce it. My first goal is to take inventory and see what costumes I have and which ones I need, starting with the hero's costumes. I have 8 of 9 costumes, with the missing one being the Luminary of Legend costume, which I can't get till the Luminary Trials, which is an in-game of the in-game thing, and I'll explain that in a second as well. Next we have Serena. I have 6 out of 10, or technically 11 costumes for her. The ones we're missing are Skin Titan Scarlet, the Serenica, the Light Fanatic, the Mega Metal Maniac, and the Ring of Changes, which isn't technically a costume, but a ring that allows her to have short hair. And the Mega Metal is a shared costume between Serena, Veronica, and Jade, so although I'll count it in theirs, the final tally will reflect as if the costume just counts as 1, not 3. Speaking of Jade, she has the most costumes in the game. I wonder why. Anyway, for her, I have about 8 of 11 costumes. The ones I'm missing are the Zenlon, the metal one, and the most ridiculous one to obtain, the Hair Razor. Next up is Hendrik, or as he's referred to online, 8. I only have 2 of 6 of his, the ones I'm missing being the Field Marshal, the Warrior King, the Unswerving Companion, and Clown costume. Unfortunately, the Clown costume is only in a cutscene, so it's 6 in spirit, but officially it's only 5 costumes. Next we have Veronica. I have 5 out of 9, and I'm missing the Flapping Fairy, the High Priestess, the Black Cat, and the Meadow one. And we have Rab. I have 3 of 5, and I'm missing the King of the World Tree and the Sun God. We then have Sylvando. I have 5 of 7, and I'm missing the Stunner and even Suaver Sylve. And lastly, we have Eric, whose costumes I've already obtained prior to the recording, so that leaves us with a total of 18 costumes to obtain. This is gonna hurt. Now, costumes can be obtained through a multitude of ways. Some are story related, some can be bought from shops, you receive some as rewards for quests, and some can be crafted. Now at this point I'm aware I can't get them all right now, even if I wanted to. However, in order to make things easier for myself, I decided to try and get all that I can now before I progress. So, to my fun-size forge I go. I start jotting down all the materials required for crafting and get them all tallied. And of course, this game is not so simple to allow you to just straight up make the costume. Instead, you have to craft all the pieces to it. Thankfully, most only have 2 if I'm not mistaken, but that doesn't mean the items you need to craft them aren't hard to obtain. I won't go into the nitty-gritty of the items, so let's just skip to obtaining a few of them first. First, I travel to Octagonia to obtain a recipe book and some costumes I forgot to grab. I speak to Wambolina to receive a stellar suit, and then I speak to Golden Boy to receive the recipe book titled Dress to Impress. This now unlocks the recipe for Suave Silk. Then I find Cinderella, and she gives me the Stella Starflower, which completes the set for the Flapping Fairy costume. I immediately hop back into the Fun Size Forge and begin crafting the newly learned recipe for the Dashing Doublet. The cool thing about the Fun Size Forge is that you can access it anywhere in the world, and if you mess up in the minigame, your item will still be made, albeit at a lower quality, and you can always use little pearls that you get from actually doing it right to just remake it and fix it if you need to. Also, the higher level you are, the better the flourishes and chances of good criticals landing. However, it's still just a chance, and higher level items sometimes felt like they always needed a rework. I finish the doublet, I move on to the scarf, and after a less than successful craft, Sylve's new costume is complete, leaving us with only 17 more. I teleport back to the Dungeon Soul region and go looking to fight royal reptiles so I can steal an item called Serpent Souls. We take these to Crystalinda in Snuffleheim, who will trade these for other items. In this case, we are going after Crimsonites, Kaleidocloths, and Black Tears. Unfortunately, you can only do one at a time, so you have to continually talk to her over and over again, and I was skipping through and accidentally made one too many, and now I have to go back. I cycle through a few times, gaining a few more before heading back to Crystalinda, and then I head to the Snarefell to fight an optional boss to break the monotony. Not the smoothest win, but the deed is done, and with that, I head back to Snuffleheim to inform the Queen of my success. Then I zoom to Gallopolis to speak to the Prince for a quest for a few free pet pips.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
I zoom back to Hado and head out to the steppe to whip out the old fun-size forge and craft myself the Zenlon hair ring and then the Zenlon gown, which completes the Zenlon set for Jade. Probably one of my favorites for her, to be honest. Then I head back to Heliodor to start an optional story quest for Hendrik. I follow the shadow through the castle. After doing this for a bit, Hendrik declares his love for Jasper, and then after following the shadow for a bit more, Hendrik decides that he needs to fight it by himself. After an emotional battle, we're gifted with the golden Hendrik skin, better known as the Unswerving Companion. I head back to Octagonia, and I start gambling. I buy a few fireballs, pop back into the fun-size forge, and craft the Apollo crown for Rab. I then zoom back to Hado to speak to Iago at the end, and he gives me a quest with some Uber Agat of Evolution as the reward, which is exactly what I need for another costume. I head up to Mount Huji and find the stash, and then I zoom back to claim them sweet Agats. Back to the forge to make the Pontius Pallium, and with that, Rab's Sun God outfit is complete. I find my way through a few towns picking up quests, one of which will award me 5 mini medals, which will be very beneficial for my medal album, so I accept, head out, complete it, head back to deliver the good news, and receive dim medals. I run around some more accepting quests and bullshitting before heading back out to collect some items for crafting. This time, it's Nightsticks to craft the Field Marshal's Finery. This completes the set and grants me the Field Marshal outfit. I take to the skies on my flying whale cetacean and head to find a seedling in order to progress the story. After finding one at one of the whale stations, we are told of a way to armor Cetacea, which just so happens to be one of the trophies, and Veronica is turned back to her original form temporarily. Veronica and Serena Prey turn into a tree, and we are shown a cutscene of the hero of old being betrayed by the wizard of his party, Morkant. After reaching out for the tree again, we're shown how Serenica used her magic to seal Erdwin's lantern and banish it. Serenica returned the Sword of Light and began researching a way to revive the Luminary of Light. She attempts to destroy the Sphere of Light in the Tower of Time, yet fails and becomes an ethereal Talkle-like being who is destined to watch over it for all of time. The party reacts, and we're given the bombshell that the person informing us of all of this is in fact Morkant, Edward's companion, who was tempted to smite Erdwin by Mordegon, and the form you see before you is the light that survived. Yeah, it's some Kingdom Hearts level bullshit at this point. Anyway, he tells you before he dies that you should visit Serenica, so off to Sky Haven to talk with the Sky People. They give us the Wheel of Time and we're on our way to the Lost Land. We open the door, proceed through a winding labyrinth, and once we reach the top, we speak with the Timekeeper, aka Serenica, in order to find out how to defeat the Dark One. She makes our flute shiny and Veronica and Serena spit some bars before dropping a flute and harp solo. Our sword is covered in golden light, and the beam gives our flying whale Cetacea gold armor. That was definitely not a sentence I thought I'd ever say. Cetacea speaks of trials that the others willingly agree to, and we're given the Masters of the Sky trophy, leaving us with just 7. Next, we head towards the Path of Trials. While it may look very similar to normal areas of the map, this trial version actually features different enemies and other items to collect in the environment, which is perfect considering I'm going to need all the items we can get for those outfits. Eventually, I reach Trial and proceed inside where we're all shown 3 trials that we can undergo. The Trial of Discipline, Trial of the Sage, and Trial of the Luminary. These are essentially just non-random dungeon randomizers. The first area is Cryptic Crypt. Perfect perfect, as this is the place I plan on securing some mini metals and kill several birds with one stone. After falling through the floor, I run into a whole room of these penny pinchers, who drop mini metals at the end of battle, but I always opt for stealing them as it's quicker and has a higher success rate. I do this for a bit to ensure I collect enough so I won't have to come back later, and then it's onwards and forwards. I make my way out of crypt to crypt, and then find myself in the Eerie Valley. I navigate through this area, eventually stumbling upon Justin's helmet, which is a piece of the Warrior King costume we need. I pick up a few other rare items, including the Devilry Drinker, which can be sold for a decent chunk of gold, and we continue pushing forward. We then find ourselves in a golden chamber where we encounter Justin, one of Erdwin's old party. He gives us some lore of his life, and then challenges us to defeat the fearsome enemy in a specific amount of turns, this one being 25, while we spank him in 10 and are granted a wish. So for my first wish, I choose a super powerful weapon, which will help us get the Swordsmith of Light trophy. We're then teleported back to the Temple of Tranquility. I attempt to make the Supreme Sword of Light, however I don't possess all the necessary items. I then jump into the Sage's Trial and we find ourselves at the Fierce Forest. I roam about finding a few extra mini metals, a recipe book, Serenica's Circlet, and a recipe book for the last outfit I need for Rab. I immediately hop into my forge, I finish the crown and dress coat, which nets the King of the World tree outfit, and Rab is done. I push forward and let me just slide right by you, and we're on to the next area, Hoarder's Keep. Not too fond of this area during the story, as it's kind of a pain to navigate and the boss almost had my cheeks during the story segment. Although the boss isn't present, the area is still annoyance. Anyway, I push through locating chests, coming across a book that will allow me to craft one of Veronica's outfits, however I once again lack the materials. We once again run into Justin in the vault, where he once again gives us a trial we must overcome, this time in 30 actions or less, or your wish is free. We do it in 14, and my next wish is to change Serena's hair. This gives us the Ring of Changes, aka another part of Serena's outfit list, and on we move into the Luminary's trial. The next area we find ourselves in the Citadel of Spite, something I've learned this game is full of. Once in the world, I bypass all enemies since there's no incentive to engage them. This is also another area I hated navigating, but I wind up running into a Tockle, and that helps towards the Tockle trophy. By the way, I guess I didn't really ever explain it, but Tockles are these little beings that you find in the world, and whenever you run into them, they give you this thing called a password, spelled P-A-S-T-W-O-R-D. Yeah, it's really weird. Ultimately, they exist in this other realm that looks exactly like one of the old school Dragon Quest games, so it's really, really cool that they did that, but each password is for unlocking another segment of the books, and each book pertains to one of the other Dragon Quest games, i.e. 1 through 10. So yeah, that's what Tockles are. I think at this point I only have like one more Tockle left to find in order to access the things that I like, in order to access the quests in order to complete that trophy. So yeah, now that you're all caught up, I pick up a recipe book for more weapons and eventually find Erdwin's cornet, which is part of the Luminary costume for Hero. I continue exploring, get lost, and then I jack one of the dragons. I find some more mini metals, some materials, and some pet pips, and then after making my way outside, I find Justin's sword. Hitch another ride across some electric floor and eventually find myself facing a giant mimic known as a Pandora's Big Box. After defeating him, we get a pet pop, not to be confused with a pet pip. I get lost again, activate a few switches, open the door to the next dungeon, but I don't leave until I deactivate the seal on the lower floor, which means I have to break my knees, but this nets me the last piece of Justin's armor, getting me the Warrior King, finishing Hendrick's list. I then get Erdwin's tunic, which nets me the Luminary of Legend, finishing the Heroes list, and I also get another piece for Serena, finishing the Serenica. Now I have all costumes for 4 of my party members. I head to the vault for my final Justin challenge, this time with a limit of 40 actions or less. We do it in 23, and then I make my last wish to pick someone to stay with me forever. I choose my childhood friend Gemma. Justin tells me to head back to Cobblestone, where I find her waiting for me in my home. We head out for a stroll to the place where the game started on Cobblestone Tor. After getting a bit further, I'm forced into a battle. After winning, Gemma compliments me and says we need to go to the summit, which at this point we were just taking a nice little stroll, but it's starting to feel more like a hike at this point. Either way, we reach the summit where Gemma gets nostalgic, talks about our wedding and how the character talks even though he's very quiet. Gemma asks you to say your vows again, says she'll always be there for you, and afterwards we're given the Magic Moments trophy, and with that we only have 6 more to achieve. I leave Gemma, head straight back to the adventure. My first stop is to the school to drop off all of those mini medals I farmed in the trial. I get myself some okay gear, a recipe book, and best of all, I get that little trophy that I'm not even going to say it. And with that, only 5 more to go. I zoom to Sniffelheim, whip out my forge, and see what I've got left. Crafting wise, I've actually only got 1 for Sylve and 1 for Veronica. I head to the castle, trade in some of those serpent souls I picked up in the trial, turn them into Kaleidocloths, zoom to Hodo, speak to the blacksmith, give him the new sword I just acquired, and then I leave, come back, and after speaking with him, he says it's in the shop, costs a whopping $35,000. I buy it, and now I'm 1 step closer to forging the Super Sword of Light. I head into Mount Huji with the Mirror of Light I acquired somewhere, and hand it off to the lady. After she tells me her story, and frees her son from the dragon's curse, they thank us, tell us to meet us in town. We make our way to the shrine, they thank us once again, give us the Crucible Key, which unlocks a forge, and a volcano, which we need in order to forge the Super Sword of Light. But first, we need the Sword of Light. But first, we need to get the Forging Hammer, which is normally gifted to us, but now can be won in the races. Thankfully, I have some cheap items on my horse and win the race. Cake. And with that, the Forging Hammer is ours. Now back to the Dungersell region for a few more Serpent Souls, and you guessed it, right back to Sniffelheim for some conversion and back into the Forge. I make the Crown of Eternity, but unfortunately don't have enough materials to make her gown, so I teleport back to the casino in Octagonia. I buy 6 love potions, drop back into the Forge. This time I craft the Tiara Treminade, or whatever it's called, and then I craft the Gladder Rags with rousing success, and that completes Sylve's outfit list. I head back to Trial Isle and find the last tackle I need to start the tackle quest. Say what you will about this game, but they definitely packed it to the brim with content. I teleport back to the Dungeon Cell region again, and for more Serpent Souls. And then it's off to the high seas for some booty. And some treasure. I'm looking for a specific island at this point. Unfortunately, none of the islands are named on the map, nor are they able to be fast traveled to, so I have to deal with random encounters, which is thankfully only here on the sea. I finally find the island I'm looking for, but I've already been here and I had a hard time finding the Cumulanimbo? I don't know, dude, however you pronounce it. They got weird names in this game. But eventually I find it, and then it's back to the forge. I craft the Gown of Eternity, and after less than adequate result, her costume is completed. And then it's back to Sniffelheim, but apparently you can't wake the princess at night. So we sleep at an inn, and it's back to the castle in the morning. We trade in a few more Serpent Souls, head straight to Mount Huji, use the Crucible Key, offer up our Guiding Light, which reveals the forge. I craft the Sword of Light again, as this playthrough is kind of like an alternate timeline. It all happens after the game is beaten. Anyway, I show off my new shiny sword, pop back into the forge, and begin the crafting on the Supreme Sword of Light. Unfortunately, it's crappy, but it's still the Supreme Sword of Light, which nets the Swordsmith of Light trophy, and with that there's only 4 more, and thus begins my Tackle Quest Capade. Now, the Tackle Quest is cool as it's a whole nother world that's really just a love letter to classic Dragon Quest, but not just a few entries. It's actually all the games prior to 11. They're all accessible through these books, which we now have all the past words for. Even cooler about this graphical style is you can play the entire game in it. As much as I'd love to talk your ear off about my Tackle adventures, just know I spent a solid 7 hours completing quests and grinding for gold. After all was said and done, I was finally able to purchase the Black Cat costumes for Veronica and the outfit for the Mega Metal one, which completes Veronica's outfits. I side quest for a bit, craft a new weapon for Veronica, and head back to finish out one of the last quests for the Tackles. Unfortunately, there's still one I can't complete until I fight the final boss, Colosmos. So I rest up, save, take to the skies to get me another trophy. This battle's a standard RPG fight. It takes place in some weird void of space and time, where my party and I must destroy God with the power of friendship and swords. Unfortunately, it doesn't go that way, like at all, on my first attempt. Stay humble out there, even if you're level 99, just saying. So this time, I use the Sword of Light as an item, and it turns the boss into a normal boss now. And now, the time for clapping cheeks can begin. We defeat him with relative ease this time and make him explode with pleasure or pain? I honestly can't tell. Make our getaway. We decide to find the Timekeeper in order to help restore her, and after seeing Serena, I'm sure she ain't gonna be the one changing. We hand her the Sword of Light, giving her another chance to see Erdwin. Afterwards, the party goes their separate ways until one day Veronica and Serena arrive at Cobblestone, saying that it would be best to return the Sword of Light to the World Tree. So we agree, press on for one last adventure, which is actually just a load screen followed by a CG cutscene where we're greeted by the Ygdragon, aka John Dragonquest, who drops some heavy lore about how the dragon was defeated by Colosmos, was brought back in the form of a tree, created the world, and the heroes granted the title of Erdrick, and we're shown a cutscene that shows the hero from both the first game and the third Dragon Quest before receiving the final story trophy, Echoes of an Elusive Age, leaving us with just 3 more. But unfortunately, we're far from over, as now the in-game starts. I hop back in, teleport to the Tackle entrance to finish the final quest. After we enter, I'm given the item that I require in order to complete the last quest, head in, make my way, finish it, and then begins the Gauntlet of Torment. Another room opens up after all 10 books are restored, and I head forward. There's 4 more worlds in the book, but they're really just harder boss battles featuring bosses found in all the previous Dragon Quest games, going in order from 1 all the way through 11. And unlike some boss battles, these are rough. I barely make it out of the first battle, head back to the overworld, save, receive the Savior of the Tackle Scripture trophy, leaving me with just 2 more. I jump back in, defeat the next set for 4, 5, and 6 by the skin of my teeth, but once I hit 7 and 8, I hit a hard wall, and well, this just about sums it up. Okay, now I'm angry. But instead of getting mad, I'd rather get even. I want to destroy my enemies. I want to ground them into dust. And so begins the grind. Now you might be asking yourself, Kyle, what grind could you possibly mean? You're already level 99. What more could you do? Thankfully, this game has an item that allows you to raise stats without levels. However, it is quite a tedious process. I start by fighting malicious brownies on this random island in order to farm them for seeds of strength. I do this to make sure both my hard-hitting melee members are hitting as hard as they can. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of RNG involved, and each seed only gives you 1 point, I believe. Maybe sometimes 2, but even that's just a chance, which drives me crazy. Worst part is, the enemy has 2 item types, one being a common drop and another being a rare drop, and guess which one is rare? So now I can only receive a max of 3 per battle at most, and I'm also limited because the likelihood of that happening is already low. I grind for hours, and I mean hours, somewhere in the 30-40 hour range, I believe, just to get enough seeds. Partway through, I realized I could use pep skills to increase chances, as well as equipping bunny tails to all my party members, which, you guessed it, is another rare drop from another enemy. kill me now. Beyond the bunny tails, I also equipped some of my party members with the metal maniac costume. There's only one other item that I could actually have equipped to Eric, but it requires RNG because I'd have to go back to the casino, and I was just like, absolutely not. I've already spent too much time in that. Like, I think as of now, I've already spent about 10 to 15 hours in the casino. So no, I'm good. I'm good. Either way, after a little bit, I get Hero and Eric to 999 strength. I get everyone's health up to 999 and increase Serena and Veronica's MP level to 999 as well. I then also just get Serena's magical mending a boost, which is super unnecessary considering it doesn't lower MP costs for spells, and I already have a spell that fully heals all party members anyway. If you thought I was done there, you were wrong. I then focus my attention to my armor and weapons, making the best weapons and armor at the highest level I can, aka +3, which boils down to using Perfectionist Pearls and equipping all my party members with Catholicon Rings +3 in order to max out stat ailment resistance. I stock up on some pet pops, which pet my entire party up, which is useful as it allows me to use a special pet power in battle that grants everyone immunity to damage and status ailments for a few turns. Now that my stats are up and my HP MP are where I want them, I dive back into Tickington, and this time it's a different story. I clear the first two easy enough before they throw two more at me. They don't last very long, and after defeating them, we are given a new password and granted the red jumpsuit, which then completes the Skin Tight and Scarlet costume for Serena, getting us one step closer to that fashion trophy. We fight the End of Time, which is a pixel art version of Cosmos, once again, Cake, and afterwards we are told that this was just a test, so they could see if we were prepared to fight Cosmos. You know, the one we had to beat in order to complete the last quest for the Tockles. I don't know, the one that we completed, about 40 hours ago? Seriously, the only thing this man tested was my patience at this point. They erect a statue in my honor and the deed is done. But wait, there's more. He was a prereq fight for another final boss called Time Worm, and he's the last obstacle we must face for the PLAT. I prep myself and save, bearing in mind I started this video at 83 hours and 23 minutes playtime, easily went up to 122.43, and most, if not all of the time was spent grinding, crafting, and questing in Tickington. At this point, I'm real tired, boss, but I forge on to my final trial and one that I built up in my head as a monstrous battle. It might have actually been, if I didn't do all that grinding. I jump into the battle immediately without prepping, and I opt for a redo. Oopsies. After giving everyone some elfin elixirs, which restore all MP to whoever it's used on, and some pet pops, save one last time and take Cetacea to Time Worm. I defeat him in 52 actions, but at least he's gone, and we are granted the hair-raising suit, which nets us dedicated follower of fashion trophy, and of course, that snowballs into the PLAT. If you're wondering why the suit is so special, it's because anytime it's equipped on Jade, if she ever gets killed, the suit will bring her back no matter what. Kinda useless now that we don't really have anything else to fight, but who cares? It's another PLAT in the bank. But the real question is, should you PLAT it yourself? And honestly, that's gonna have to be a no from me, dog. Listen, this game is phenomenal, gorgeous, fun, and has so many welcome quality of life changes from the rest of the series that I dare say it is the most approachable of the numbered series. But the amount of RNG in this game is insane, and it permeates everything. And I get it, this is an RPG. RPGs are based on chance encounter and the roll of the dice. But this is so layered that it began to feel like an overwhelming chore, and I clearly underestimated the time it would take me, keeping in mind that I did in fact have to look several things up, as this game has a lot, and even with the journal, it wouldn't always be accurate or informative. While I am proud of this PLAT, I wound up having to extend this game another 30 hours past defeating Cosmos just to be able to fight a stronger boss for an outfit, for a singular trophy, and a silver one at that. Still though, even if I wouldn't recommend the Platinum, I'd still recommend the game. It's a beautiful mix of next-gen turn-based gameplay with a gorgeous soundtrack, accompanied by even more gorgeous graphics, and most, if not all things outside the story that are mentioned here are very optional. But unless you're a huge Dragon Quest fan or you've girded your loins and your nerves of steel remain unshaken at everything you've just heard, I can't in good conscience recommend spending this much time doing this. Either way, that was Dragon Quest XI. Now can I say it? Really? Okay. Now that's enough suffering for one day. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and honestly, I'm looking forward to doing this again with a few other games that I have on my list. In fact, I was actually planning on adding another one to this video, but I'd rather do an honorable mention, as I've gotten quite a few since making this. After all the honorable mentions are tallied up, I'm currently sitting at 40 plats. I once again hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, and stay tuned as I have another video idea in the works for another new series. So y'all have a good one, and I will see you all in the next video.